normal people become terrified of criminals.
Shots were just fired. Police just came out and told us, and we're headed there right now.
They become terrified of their own government.
Oh, okay.
We got this tweet here from Elon himself. He said, as I said earlier this week, decolonization and from the river to the sea and similar euphemisms necessarily imply genocide. Clear calls for extreme violence are against our terms of service and will result in suspension. This is also in response to Swipe Right. He's responding to himself. Yes, decolonization necessarily implies a Jewish genocide. Thus, it is unacceptable to any reasonable person. And this is what Colin Wright had said, to which Elon Musk responded. Decolonization is the woke version of jihad, and it should be viewed and treated that way.
Absolutely.
Wright responded to Elon by saying exactly when Hamas slaughtered Israeli civilians in the name of jihad on October 7th, the woke said, this is what decolonization looks like. When they tell us decolonization looks like jihad, we should believe them.
Yes.
Now, here's the question. Do we agree with a social media platform banning people calling for decolonization or, for that matter, even jihad?
No. I think that it should be looked at just like any other time when someone calls for violence. So if you have a platform that says we don't allow calls for violence, then talking about decolonization and stuff, then that's considered violence, in my opinion. If you allow anything, then fine. You know, if X allows other calls for violence and then they specifically say we don't like
crimes.
this, yeah, that's what I feel like too. They're crime.
Calling people to commit violence is a crime. Now, the question is, decolonization sits at that nexus point between academic rhetoric and instructing people to go and commit acts of violence.
Yeah, it's not illegal.
So what they try doing is they say, we're not calling for violence, we're saying decolonize. But we know what decolonize means.
Even if they called for violence, if it's not an imminent threat with a day and a time, it's not illegal. The question is, knowing that this is not illegal, should it be banned?
But there's been selective enforcement of calls for violence and things that are and are not violence. The left does tend to swear up and down that things are not calls for violence that clearly are calls for violence. They say that the protests and the riots, they say that those aren't violence.
Yep.
There is an ambiguity that the left continues to rely on when they're talking about things that they would call direct action or
riots are the cries of the unheard.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's an ambiguity.
I agree. That's a fair point.
I think it is a fair point, but it's still
that's not what Phil's referring to.
It still obfuscates the violent nature of it.
What Phil is referring to is how the left will say, we're going to engage in a direct action. Everyone wear all black and masks and gloves and show up at this time at this location. And what does direct action mean? Direct action literally means breaking the law or committing acts of violence.
Right.
I'm not going to be cute, and I'm not going to defend the left. I have been at way too many leftist protests. When they talk about peacefully protesting, that's not what direct action is.
Yeah.
Direct action is a phrase they come up with when they're referring to either blocking streets, blocking doors, fighting with cops, or throwing things.
Is that
worse?
Is that just Antifa that does the direct action stuff, the black bloc?
So in the early at Occupy, I don't want to say early days because this goes way back.
Sure.
But I do want to give a shout out to our good friends who participated in the battle in Seattle, which was a protest against the WTO, by the way, by the left for some reason. Now they're on the other side of this. But in New York, we didn't call them Antifa. We just called them the Black Bloc. And we didn't call them anarchists either. Sometimes the word anarchist gets thrown around because it's used to convey the idea that everyone understands. Like if someone says the anarchists, we know they're referring to the people wearing all black. However, considering that half the people...
I don't claim them.
But considering half the people we were friends with were literal anarchists who rejected that false philosophy of authoritarianism, we knew that wasn't correct. So we just called them the Black Bloc leftists or Black Bloc extremists or the Black Bloc. Now everyone refers to it as Antifa because the game they played back then was there is no Black Bloc. Mm-hmm. Black Bloc is a tactic, not a thing.
Right.
Black Bloc is when people wear hoodies. And it's like, then why do the same people all the time have logos and wear the same clothes? Now it's the same thing with Antifa. Antifa is just an idea. It's not a group. There's cells. There's chapters. They engage in violence.
This is exactly why this is indicative of the actual vulnerability that liberalism has. Liberalism takes the opposing view or the argument from someone else, takes it at face value and treats every argument as if it is a honest argument. And if you're dealing with progressives or socialist people that essentially disregard or reject the Enlightenment values, they don't see a reason to be honest because power is the goal, not honesty. So if they're looking to win and they want to go ahead and cover up violent actions or direct your attention elsewhere, they have no problem lying.
See, here's my interest at this junction, being that I'm not really on the left or the right, is that I just want to see this de-escalate, and I don't want to ever endorse censorship protocols, particularly if they are kind of vague platitudes, like from the river to the sea or decolonization. Like that is just clearly not explicit enough of a threat for it to be illegal. It's certainly not illegal.
Read Franz Fanon's Wretched of the World, and it's clear.
But Phil, it's not illegal.
But
legality is not illegal.
But legality is not the standard. That's something I brought up.
But he has brought that up. He said it's legal or lawful, but not awful. Remember when he was talking about that? Or maybe it was his CEO that was saying it.
Elon Musk's point was that you're not allowed to call for extreme violence on their platform. He did not say it has to be illegal. I said that.
I know, but in the past, either Yacarino,
he said lawful but awful.
Yes, exactly. Where he said if it's lawful, well, I don't think in any court in the country you could actually get a conviction for someone saying that. I don't think Elon ever said all lawful speech would be permitted on the platform. Well, I took the lawful, awful but lawful as being like that was the gray area.
And so that was a direct reference to what they would censor. Things that were lawful but awful would be censored.
Oh, it was that direction. Okay, well then I misunderstood.
So what their point was, if it is lawful but awful, we will restrict it and hide it or worse.
Mm-hmm. See, who gets to define what awful
exactly,
is?
This is the
problem. Central authority.
I have no idea. Like once you've gone down this path, we've already done this before. That's what's so frustrating. Just a couple years ago we were doing this.
Rumble. We've been going through with Rumble. Everyone's up in arms about Rumble right now, dude. It's the same shit. Rumble's gonna get hit with this. Chris is gonna make some stupid call that bans some dumb thing. And Chris, I'm not. I will put you on the spot because you haven't called me back lately. But it's serious, man. You got to decentralize that platform. Holding this stuff in one central area is a massive vulnerability, and people can go crazy.
It's not.
The
FBI can take your shit.
Look, Elon's whole claim for why he purchased Twitter or X was that he understands, allegedly, how important open dialogue and conversation are. The entire when it was the left when it was hold on when it was the left that was in control that was absolutely banning anybody that was even like 1 degree to the right. All my libertarian friends got banned too, so I took this personally. The issue is that we understand that we're prepared in the battle in the arena of ideas. We fear no man. So I want to have these conversations. I don't want to see these people banned. That just radicalizes them further.
But you're talking about, so it's one thing to say that you're going to you want your platform to be an open exchange of ideas. Then the point is, we're not going to censor perspectives. We're not going to censor ideas, right? Yeah. So that's one thing. But then it's one thing that's different from saying, I want to kill all those people, right? Like the old Twitter, the reason that Musk bought it was because there were entire ideas that were not allowed to be articulated. It wasn't that you couldn't say the N-word or the K-word or whatever swear. It wasn't about vulgarity. The vulgarity is what ends up getting people in trouble. It's not... You're never going to see Martyr Maid get booted from X because the way that he talks about stuff. Like the whole Fear and Loathing in New Jerusalem, that whole thing, if he didn't come at the stories the way that he does and articulate them the way that he does, if he did it loosely and like he was shit posting and stuff, that all that stuff would be like anti-Semitism. Get out of here. If he was approaching it by being vulgar and stuff. But the idea is completely fine to share those ideas on X, just so long as you're not shitposting about it, because the shitposting is what ends up offending people. But see, so on X, it's not censoring ideas, and it used to be before Musk. There were entire ideas that you were not allowed to share. You couldn't say that a man could not become a woman. That would offend someone, and that would get booted.
And that was ridiculous. Yeah. The Wuhan Institute of Virology, I got suspended for that, so I know that was a big deal.
But the point was, it was about not preventing the sharing of ideas, not about not saying things that were offensive.
Well, but see, this is the issue, is that this is still an idea. Because what you're talking about, from the river to the sea, as you know, there are lots of people that don't feel that it is a call for genocide.
I don't believe them. I honestly don't believe them.
Really?
When people
None
say
of them?
You
think every single person that has said that wants to see a genocide?
I think not a genocide, but they think that if They think that it's fine to say it should be a democracy where everybody there gets a say, and the Jews would be and it should be a one-state solution.
Okay.
And the Jews would end up getting slaughtered.
I'm sorry, people are getting mad at me for this, but I don't care. If people started marching around doing Roman salutes while doing a Sieg Heil, are you going to be like, not everybody actually believes? When Hamas puts out their charter and they include, we read this morning on the Culture War. Hamas's original charter included I think Phil mentioned it was one of the hadiths, which quite literally says the trees and the stones will call out, there's a Jew hiding behind me, so that the Muslims can come and hunt them and kill them. And their charter actually says that there will not be judgment day until they've killed the Jews. Like, it's fair point. Not everybody may mean that, but that would be akin to, people going around doing a Roman salute. Or I'll give you a better one. I saw a extended family member of mine do the red salute at a march. And I'm just like, it's so funny how many.
The fist.
The fist where you show the fingers forward. Yeah. And the reason why they do that, so there's the victory fist where you can like hold your fist in the air and shake it. But the red salute is when you hold your fingers forward. And I'm not going to make the fist on camera. And it's because it represents that each individual finger is weak, but together is strong, and you show your enemies. So when I see people doing that, I'm like, I understand they don't literally want to massacre and slaughter a bunch of people. And they don't literally want a communist takeover. They might think some things like this. The problem is the banality of evil. Those photos of everybody doing the Sieg Heil and the Roman salute to Hitler didn't know what they were throwing up for. And so when you have people marching through the street chanting from the river to the sea, by all means, we can say maybe that person doesn't really know, but nonetheless, you have a large group of people expressing the idea of Hamas and Hamas's stated goal of wiping out Jews.
I don't disagree with much of that, but here's the broader issue. I am a firm believer in open dialogue and debate.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.